Today, we are diving into a really fascinating idea about the Quran, a theory that suggests its structure isn't just a collection of verses, but an actual, deliberate, geometric design. It's a story about numbers, hidden shapes, and a cosmic code that's apparently been hiding in plain sight this whole time.
So, let's start with a really basic question. When you think of a sacred text, what pops into your head? For most of us, it's a book, right? Words on a page, bound together. A static record of things that happened a long, long time ago.
But what if it's something more, something else entirely? The source material we're looking at today makes a pretty bold claim that the Quran is a dynamic, verifiable blueprint, a living structure that you can actually map out and understand.
Okay, let's get into the core of this. The whole theory we're exploring suggests that the arrangement of the Quran's chapters and verses is anything but random. In fact, it claims that when you plot out the verses of each chapter geometrically, say using verse numbers as coordinates, they start to form these distinct, consistent polygonal shapes.
This framework wants us to stop thinking about the Quran as a linear story that you just read from front to back. Instead, it presents it as this incredibly complex, multi-layered design, one where every single element, the chapters, the verses, the words, even the letters, is placed exactly where it is based on pure mathematical logic.
So, if there's a code this complex, there has to be a key, right? And according to this theory, the entire geometric system is authenticated by one very specific number that supposedly takes all that chaos and locks it into perfect order.
And the key, the one constant that everything else is built on, is just a single prime number.
And that number is 19. The theory goes that 19 is the divine constant. It's like a mathematical signature woven through the whole text, turning what seems random into a deliberate, deeply interconnected system. And here's the most straightforward example of this. The Quran has 114 chapters, or surahs. That number isn't arbitrary at all. It's exactly 6 times 19. According to the theory, this is just the very first layer, the tip of the iceberg of a mathematical pattern that runs incredibly deep. So how does a mathematical code become a larger structure? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The theory proposes that the geometry of the Quran actually takes on a very specific form, one that mirrors the fabric of time and life itself. And that shape is the Mobius loop. It's such a cool object. If you take a strip of paper, give it a half twist, and tape the ends together, you've got one. And the weird thing is, it only has one side. You can trace its entire surface and end up right back where you started without ever crossing an edge. The end seamlessly becomes the beginning.
And this whole concept has a direct parallel right inside the Quran, which talks about existence as a repeating cycle. This verse here suggests a universe that isn't just a one-and-done event, but a continuous loop of creation and return, which, you have to admit, sounds a lot like a Mobius loop.
So within this framework, seeing the Quran's geometry as a Mobius loop isn't just some abstract art project. It's meant to be a map of the soul's journey, a path of testing, of purification, and of return, all happening on one continuous surface where the past, present, and future are completely interconnected. Now, the theory gets even more specific. It claims that when you map out all 114 chapters geometrically, one particular shape, a triangle, appears only 3 times. Just 3, and these aren't seen as random occurrences, but as fundamental twists in time that define the entire cosmic story. And to make this a little easier to picture, these 3 key moments are framed with this really powerful metaphor, the cosmic breath. The first twist is the inhale, the second is the gap, or the pause, and the third is the exhale. Together, they form one complete cycle of destiny.
This table really lays out the core of the argument. It connects each of the 3 chapters that form a triangle shape to a huge pivotal event. So the first twist, the inhale, is linked to the chapter The Time in Ibrahim's Trial by Fire. The second, the gap, connects to abundance and the principle of sacrifice. And the third, the exhale, represents victory and the return to divine light through the chapter The Divine Help.
So, what does all this add up to? The math, the shape, the 3 pivotal moments? Where's it all going? Well, according to the source, it all culminates in this one massive claim, that the Quran is not a static book, but something with irrefutable physical proof of its own living nature. Let's just quickly walk down that path again. It all starts with a mathematical code centered on the number 19,
That code then builds out into a specific geometric shape, the Mobius loop of time. And inside that shape, 3 key triangular moments define the entire cosmic narrative, which all leads to the final conclusion, a living, breathing text.
And the words used in the source material to describe this are, well, they're pretty epic. It's described not as a book, but as a pulsing star, not just as text, but as the eternal word, not just a guide, but the only living proof, and maybe the most powerful one, the universe's own source code.
This whole idea is underscored by verses like this one, suggesting a text that is perpetually alive, always protected from any kind of error or corruption, whether from the past or the future. A text whose own mathematical and geometric integrity is its own forever guard.
And all of that leaves us with one final, kind of mind-bending thought to chew on. We're so used to the idea of us reading a text. But if a text is truly alive, if it's a dynamic blueprint of existence itself, then maybe the more important question is, how does it read us?